delicious chicken finger with their special world famous sauce. Open daily. Locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm Sorgene Walsh, Chief Meteorologist, Nash Report.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Keon Rose, Nooga Radio 92.7 Action Sports. Now, Chattanooga Pro Soccer selects former Chattanooga FC general manager Sean McDaniel to take the reins as president and GM for the team's first ever season. Chattanooga Pro Soccer will be Chattanooga's first professional soccer team and a new member of the recently created United Soccer League Division III. The team hopes to staff roughly 40 full-time jobs and believes McDaniel is the right man to oversee the endeavor. 4 big men, all seniors, may be the key to success for the University of Tennessee this season. At least that's what head coach Jeremy Pruitt thinks of Kyle Phillips, Shai Tuttle, Paul Bain, and Alexis Johnson. The rest of the defense is relatively young, and Pruitt will be looking to his 4 big seniors to give him a big year 1 boost. Keon Rose, Nooga Radio 92.7 Action Sports, now.
Nooga Radio.
Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nooga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7.
Nooga Radio.
Good morning, beautiful people in the city of Chattanooga. How is everybody doing today? I hope everyone is doing well. It's a beautiful day. Oh, we're going to get into it on today's show. We are taking it from the streets to City Hall, from City Hall to the mayor's office. Cannot leave out the police department, from the valley low to the mountaintop, giving you guys a bird's eye view to what's going on in the city of Chattanooga. Good morning to you all. I hope everyone woke up with a fire in their heart, woke up with a good mood, with a good attitude, because if you're alive, it ain't that bad. But this is the Marie Mott Show, and today we're going to get into it. I don't know how many of my listeners, I've only been on the air a short time. The first story that I covered was the Unjolee Moore case. Mr. Moore's case involves police tampering with evidence, obstruction of justice, torturing and coercing a confession, which is illegal, not reading his Miranda rights. It includes improper representation, as well as the person who almost became our police chief at the time, which was Edwin McPherson, who entered into the investigation with a conflict of interest because his niece was involved in the murder, involved in the case which 2 men were murdered. Folks, I'm going to get into it so heavy today. It's going to be terrible, but I want you guys to share because I'm streaming live on Facebook at 92.7 FM, on YouTube, as well as my personal Facebook. Make sure you share this, because what I'm going to go over is history, pattern, culture within the police department, our political system, how it is also complicit with the corruption that we have here in the city of Chattanooga, and give you guys a background to Concerned Citizens for Justice, which is the group, the activist organization, the community organization that is behind freeing Mr. Moore. And of course, if you want to call in and chop it up with me, it's 800-8949, 800-8949. But let's go ahead and get into it. So Mr. Moore's case, Unjolee Moore is currently in prison on a life sentence for a crime we as the community believe he did not commit. And why do we believe that he did not commit the crime? Because the evidence says so. Witnesses says so. Witness testimony says so. Right? His cell phone records that they would not allow to, that they did not even request. His GPS location, which could prove him not even there, was not even allowed in his case. They didn't even ask for that. This man has been sitting in jail for 8 years, folks. I want y'all to stop and think about that, because if you remember the first show, thank you, Sam. If you remember the first show that I ever did, I went over the information with Courtney Parham, which is also with CCJ, is spearheading trying to free Mr. Moore. And people who are often found guilty of crimes that they do not commit often spend 8 years in prison before they are ever found innocent or exonerated of the crimes against them. Let me say that again. People lose 8 years of their life on average before they begin to get exonerated. And you know what it takes to get a person exonerated? You, my listener, my friend, my neighbor, the teacher that's listening, the mother, the father that's listening, right? The community activist that's listening to me, the person who firmly believes that the police are often there for you, which I'm just going to give you evidence that often they are not. The person who doesn't seem to be swayed, the listener who seems to cannot be swayed into believing that the police, which I call a fascist organization, often harasses honest, hardworking citizens and are even willing to go to an extent to frame them to send them to prison. Let's get into it. The Unjolee Moore case. Mr. Moore has been in prison for 8 years, folks, for a crime that he did not commit. No man deserves to be, or woman, or child deserves to be in prison for a crime they did not commit. You know, we have a right to an attorney, and we should have a right to proper representation, which Mr. Moore did not have. We also have a right to have a jury that is filled with people who understand us, a jury of our peers, people who understand what it's like to live in our communities, to be oppressed, people who understand what it's like to be a Black person in America. Those are the simple rights. And let's be honest, folks, we wouldn't get that in Chattanooga. Will we get a predominantly African-American jury, which would be a jury of our peers? Would Mr. Moore get that? Doubt that. But let's get into it. Now, the case is so important because the real perpetrator in this case needs to be brought to justice and deserves to be locked up for the rest of their life for murdering 2 men. I want that for the family. I want that for Mr. Bernard Hughes and Timothy Westfield's family. They deserve proper justice. But proper justice is not sending just anybody to prison because that is the person who you think deserves to be there. It is doing proper police work, proper investigation within the legal realms of ensuring that the person that's brought to justice is the right one. It doesn't look like making their cell phone disappear. It doesn't look like Officer McPherson, who's now retired, who gets to kick his feet up now. It doesn't look like him talking to his niece who was involved in the incident, which ended up having 2 men murdered. Justice doesn't look like him talking to his niece before, during, and after the murder. Justice doesn't look like him showing up to a scene that he wasn't even supposed to be in, that he should have recused himself in, because it's hard for you to involve yourself in a case that involves family and you not want to go to any extent to try to protect them, especially if they are involved in something as big as a murder. 800-8949 if you want to chop it up with me. But I hope more than ever, because this is probably going to be the most important show that I ever do in whatever career that I have on the air or in media. And that is that I help and do all that I can and bring this to your knowledge that we have a situation of police and official misconduct. And understand, the reason that we even know some of the things that happen is because the Internal Affairs Unit inside of the Chattanooga Police Department brought this information forward. Pause. The investigative unit within the Chattanooga Police Department, which should be responsible for either ensuring that police officers are fired from consistent infractions against citizens or pushing and pressuring police leadership to not continuously allow the same officers or a culture of officers who believe that they can do whatever the devil they want to the private citizen and get away with it, keep their job, keep making money. Or even if they get fired, I don't even know if they get fired to the extent that they just can't go over to Marion County or Whitfield County or Davidson County and just find another police job. This is dangerous, folks. The time now is more than ever to get involved in pressuring our leadership within the city. And if they won't do it, we got to just fight back, because no man, the bodies have been stacking for years. And I'm going to get into how CCJ organized and how the women who were responsible for starting this organization changed Chattanooga's government. Two black women did that, helped do that, push for that. I'm going to get into it, y'all. Today is going to be a history lesson, a wake-up call, a call to action. And again, if you want to call and chop it up with me, 800-8949. So Mr. Moore was arrested, charged with the murder. When he was brought in, Mr. Moore was tortured and beaten by Officer Michael Wanger. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, and I don't care. But remember that name, folks, because if you are following police culture, you've heard that name come up before. Because Officer Michael Wanger was also involved in the beating and brutalization of Adam Tatum. Go back, if you will. I hope you, the listener, will go back. Google Adam Tatum. And once the video comes up and you see that man in a headlock with police officers who got to keep their job, by the way. His name was involved already in the brutalization, or helping to cover up the brutalization of a Chattanooga citizen already. How do people do this? How do officers do this and get to keep their jobs? They don't get arrested. They don't get arrested. They don't get humiliated. They don't have to sit in jail. They don't have to appear before a magistrate. They don't have to bail out. Their family doesn't get shamed. They aren't harassed. Their misconduct doesn't get put up on every news media outlet. They don't have to go through the shame. Their children don't have to go to school and hang their head low. Their wife doesn't have to worry about her husband not being able to provide for their family. They don't have to go through any of the things that the citizen has to go through. And still, not only did he get to keep his job, he got a promotion. Became a sergeant. I want y'all to listen to me, because this is so important, folks. The way I feel as a young black millennial in the city of Chattanooga is, beat a Negro up, you get a prize. Frame him for something, you definitely get a pat on the back. And don't worry, because we got you. We got you because we're a brotherhood before we ever are supposed to protect any privatized citizen. Don't worry. We'll make sure you get proper legal representation so your family won't miss a beat. And meanwhile, the community often mourns either the death of an individual at the hands of police, or spend years fighting to prove their innocence. I don't call that justice. I call that injustice. And Dr. Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice absolutely everywhere. This is injustice. Mr. Moore was tortured, was not read his Miranda rights, and was tortured by the same man who was already involved, the same officer who was already involved in a case of police brutality. And still, Mr. Moore, who did not have enough funds to have proper representation, was provided legal representation. I wouldn't call it adequate legal representation, but he was provided representation, who did not call any of the witnesses who came forward and said that Mr. Moore was not even at the scene. He did not call for his cell phone evidence, which would have put him by GPS location somewhere else and proved his innocence. There was no DNA evidence or forensic evidence linking him to the crime. And so you got to ask yourself, if the young man wasn't there, there's no DNA evidence. People are saying that he wasn't there. The young man is saying that he was brutalized and tortured, which is not a far-fetched if the officer who did it was already involved in another police brutality case of a young man who got beaten. If the Internal Affairs Unit brings forth the evidence and says that the police participated in misconduct during the investigation, named the people who did it, one who was Edwin McPherson, I don't know what to tell you, folks. They admitted it. They admitted it. They came forward with it. They proved it. How did this young man, this young black man, end up in jail still? Because Chattanooga has a history. That's why. Because Chattanooga has a history, a long history of injustice, a long history. 800-8949 if you want to call in and talk to me. But I hope you guys are listening. I hope you guys are taking it in. I hope you guys get involved. But Concerned Citizens for Justice is the organization that is spearheading and behind Mr. Moore being freed and working tirelessly and endlessly. Especially, I want to give a shout out to Courtney Parham, a beautiful young lady who has taken her personal time while working 2 jobs to try to help free an innocent Chattanoogan who was framed. Let's be real. He was framed. Now, if you look at, because often people always want to bring up past. It's funny how we want to bring up victims' past, but we never bring up these officers who have a history of abusing citizens or murdering citizens. I think that that's a double standard. But if you look at Unjolee's past, he's not squeaky clean. He will admit that. Friends and family will admit that. No one is shy about saying that he got into trouble when he was a young man. But folks, when it comes forward from the Internal Affairs Unit that there is police misconduct, perjury on the stand, tampering with evidence from leadership, not from little new beat cops, but from sergeants and from captains, what does that tell you? That corruption in our police department starts from the bottom and goes all the way to the top. You don't believe me? The beautiful women who started Concerned Citizens for Justice started this organization because of a similar instance, except it involved the death of a man by the name of Wadey Suttles. You may have heard that name before, and if you haven't, Google is your friend. Use Google. W-A-D-I-E. First name, last name, S-U-T-T-L-E-S. Wadey Suttles. A name that should haunt every politician, every police officer, the FBI, the TBI. That name alone should haunt them for the rest of their life. The rest of this God-forgiven country's existence. Because in 1983, Wadey Suttles was arrested and was found beaten, skull beaten in, while in police custody, and he died. And since 1984, his daughter's Maxine cousin, y'all need to know these names because these are legends I'm talking about. His daughters are Chattanooga legends. And if I ever become mayor, if I ever become somebody important, I'm going to make sure that I put a statue of these 2 women at the heart of the city of Chattanooga. they deserve to be there. Maxine Cousin and Annie Thomas were his daughters who have been fighting since 1984 to find out who murdered their father while in police custody. And let me tell you, they have yet to receive justice. They have yet to get any answers. They have yet to have any closure. As a matter of fact, if you go and you look, the last, when you type in Weighty Suttles, you'll probably see an article at the top of all of the information that comes up on Google. May 5th, 2013 by the Times Free Press, where Ms. Suttles got a one-page letter from the Department of Justice saying that it indicated that in all likelihood, the person responsible for Mr. Suttles' death was, and the rest of the information was blacked out and redacted. This woman, after fighting for 30 years, gets a one-page letter from our Justice Department, the Department of Justice. Folks, and it says that the person responsible was, and it was blacked out. And almost all of the files that they got from almost every faction of a Department of Government, from TBI to FBI, Department of Justice, after writing countless letters, lawsuits, civil suits, this woman gets a letter that doesn't even name the person who's responsible. No closure after 30 years. And I'm thankful that they didn't allow their grief to distract them from the bigger goal of trying to change this city's government and putting the power back into people's hands. We're going to keep talking about it at the second half. The Unjolee Moore case, to free Unjolee Moore, why you should be concerned, police corruption, what we need to do about it, and us coming together now more than ever in solidarity as a community. Stay tuned for the second half of the segment of the Marine Mott Show.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Authorities are still looking for 71-year-old Tommy Shannon, who went missing from Ray County on Tuesday. His family says he's diabetic and may have Alzheimer's. He was last seen driving a maroon Ford Taurus with the tag number 260VQR. If you know where he is, call police. Georgia congressional Democratic candidate Stephen Foster was convicted of driving under the influence this week. Dalton police stopped him on West Walnut Avenue because they say his headlights weren't on, despite it being 2 a.m. He blew a .018, several points over the legal limit. He is running as a Democrat against Republican Tom Graves for the 14th District. And in Bledsoe County, deputies say they saw a man acting suspiciously in a driveway. When they approached him, he took off running. Deputies say they discovered Michael Watson hiding under a mobile home, dragged him out, where they discovered hundreds of oxycodone pills and over $700 in cash. Val St. John for Chattanooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News Now.
I live, work, and play in Chattanooga, the scenic city. But when it comes to my next car, truck, or SUV, I'm Alabama bound. Fort Payne, Alabama, and Landers McClarty Ford. Big city selection of new and pre-owned vehicles with the small town price and friendly service. Now, I'm not knocking my hometown, but when it comes to my next ride, I only go to Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. Their selection is huge. But if I can't find what I want, they'll find it for me with the same low price, same great service, and only a short drive away. And I can go online to look around before I leave the house. Got that next dream ride in your head yet? Yeah, you do. Get a head start at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com. Don't just dream it, find it at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com. That's right, Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne, Alabama.
Chattanooga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Hello? Who am I speaking with? Eric. You're our winner.
Really?
You'll receive tickets for all 3 races between the Camping World Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Monster Energy Cup races.
Holy cow.
In addition, you'll receive a 2-night stay at the Microtel Hotel and restaurant accommodations at 2 area restaurants.
Chattanooga Radio. Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Nuga Radio.
92.7.
Your NASCAR racing station. Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio. 92.7.
I got my business up and running and it's already expanding. I got lucky. Lucky because I found Signal Voice and Data. Signal Voice and Data can incorporate all of my business information sharing and communications seamlessly, keep my costs down, and let me work more productively with endless connectivity no matter where I might be. That's called working smart, not hard. Go to signalvoicetn.com and bring the future of communication to your business today. signalvoicetn.com.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga roofing contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga roofing contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Hey, Karen, you need me for that 1 o'clock?
Yes, Cheese, please. Karen, did you get the quarterlies done?
Yep, they're filed in the cabinet.
Karen, can you describe the initiatives to the new hire? Thanks.
Oh, sure. Full-bodied, some floral notes, maybe a hint of dark chocolate.
Am I in the right department?
Got wine on the mind? Come unwind at Virgola. Italian wine, oysters, caviar, cheeses, and more. Perfect after work or a romantic date night. Virgola Italian Wine Bar, 608 Georgia Avenue.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins. Are you tired of making 1% on your investments with the banks? Even 2 or 3% at best? Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins.
Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Brainerd Road. Chattanooga weather.
We stay very warm and humid weather out there for your afternoon. A few more widely scattered showers and storms will move back in from the west. Highs upper 80s. Tonight, any showers will diminish. Overnight lows closer to 70. For Friday, scattered showers and thunder showers likely. Highs near 85, upper 80s for the weekend. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's. Home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world famous sauce. Open daily. Locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm Soren Jeans Wall, Chief Meteorologist, Manager 4.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Oh, what's going on, good people? It's the Marie Macho. I'm the best thing that you probably ever heard on the radio. And I'm talking about real issues. No fluff pieces, not what celebrities are wearing. I'm talking to you about things happening right here in the city of Chattanooga. And how the power belongs to the people. The people have the power. All power belongs to the people, both now and forever. And it's time for us to take a stand. It's time for us to take a stand because I believe there are a lot of people out there. Maybe you don't know. You know, maybe you're like me, like David Toulis. Maybe you're like Ayanna Clemens and Nathan King and Jared Story. Maybe you're like Geoffrey Meldal, or maybe you're like Courtney Parham. Maybe you're like Mama Tamara of CCJ. Maybe you're like Maxine Cousins. Maybe you're like the people. You know, Annie Thomas. Maybe you're like Lorenzo Irvin. I'm going to get into these names because y'all need to know these names. If you could tell me, I know some, if you could tell me who Willie Nelson is, if you could tell me who Elvis Presley is, if you could tell me who Future is, I'm trying to speak to all kinds of people. If you could tell me who Justin Bieber is, who Usher is, you should know who Maxine Cousin and Annie Thomas and Lorenzo Irvin are. These are Chattanooga legends, titans. You know, a lot of us are hopeless. A lot of us see all the things going on, not only in the world, but we look in our communities, we look in our neighborhoods, we look at the scenic city, and we see the gentrification, we see the homeless population rising, We see the ever reoccurring police brutality incidents. We see all of these things happening. We see the crumbling educational system, and we believe that we don't have any power. There's nothing we can do. We just are supposed to accept. And I've seen people say this. Just accept what's happening. Accept the injustice. Accept the wrongdoing. Accept it all. There's nothing you can do. And I reject that sentiment. I reject that thought. Because these two women, Maxine Cousin and Annie Thomas, the daughters of Mr. Wadey Suttles, who never got justice, these two women turned their grief into a movement. They turned their frustration into power. They turned their pain into a platform. And because of these women, they changed the course of how we even did government in the city of Chattanooga. They presented a case that was backed by the ACLU in Atlanta. It was Lorenzo Irvin, Annie Thomas, and Maxine Cousin. Presented a case, and you can look it up. Like I said, Google is your friend. Brown versus the Board of Commissioners. Y'all should know stuff like this. I'm learning stuff like this, and I'm excited because the more that I learn, the more pride that I have that my people have done some great things in the city, and that people, even who have had things done against them, at the hands of our government, at the hands of our police department, did not sit idly by and just let it happen. So these three individuals started a case in 1987 against the city of Chattanooga. It's called Brown versus the Board of Commissioners. The plaintiffs added to it also some names you might know: Tommy Brown, Dr. Tommy Brown, legend; Lehman Pierce, legend; Herbert Wright, J.K. Brown, Johnny Holloway, George Key, Bobby Ward, Norma Crowder, and Buford Elrath. Challenged the defendants, who were at the time Mayor Gene Roberts, Irvin Dinsmore, even John Franklin, Pat Rose, and soon-to-be Mayor Ron Littlefield. And they complained that the systemic political underrepresentation of Black population in the city of Chattanooga was enough to be taken to U.S. District Judge R. Allen Edgar. And in 1989, Edgar decided that the at-large voting of the commission-style government was in violation of Federal Voting Rights Act of 1965 by failing to allow minority voters of the city to achieve political representation. Woo! Let's have a round of applause and then a moment of silence for two women and Lorenzo Irvin, who started the process out of their pain to apply pressure and to make a change. That's how we got a city council, folks. We didn't get a city council because somebody thought that that would be a good style of government. We got a city council because of two women who had been through their father being murdered at the hands of police who didn't get answers, who didn't have a commission-style government with representation of people who could understand their pain and their plight. And they said, we can't stand for that. And these two beautiful women, despite everything that they were going through, trying to get answers about how their father died in police custody, decided to start a movement. Whew. And so when folks, and you know, I hate talking about people because I don't like making people famous. But when you have individuals like Demetrius Coonrod who say CCJ is a cult, or she doesn't really care for CCJ. Baby, you don't have a seat on the city council without CCJ. Know your history, ma'am. Know your history. You fight better when you know your history. You stand up, you get more of a backbone when you know your history. Know your history. When you talk about CCJ or you say negative things about them, you're talking about two women who still haven't got justice, sweetheart. Will you roll your eyes at CCJ when they stand up and they give presentations, or you pick apart their presentations on participatory budget, on their comments against police culture, while your pals or the people who sit on the council with you, who've always had the ability to be represented by their community, they never had to fight. You know, we hate talking about race, but it is what it is, folks. I'm over it. I'm not sensitive about race. This country was built on it. I'm not sensitive about it. And the moment we can talk about it, we can get over it. But let's be real. Chattanooga was a predominantly African-American city with no black representation. And then when we do get black representation, they don't even know their history. Don't even have the decency and respect to even try to figure it out. They roll their eyes at the very faction that's responsible for ensuring that they're even there. Demetrius Coonrod, Russell Gilbert, Anthony Byrd, and Mr. Oglesby, you don't have a city council seat without Annie Thomas and Maxine Cousin. And you don't have that without the Chattanooga Police Department first murdering their father. And so when you sit silent on police issues, yeah, I'm digging in. Oh, and I hope y'all share this with them. It's all love. Nothing out of hate, resentment, anger, malice. It's all love. Know your history. If you don't know it, talk to somebody. Talk to Brother Kevin Muhammad, who backed some of y'all when y'all ran. He could tell you your history. Ask somebody some questions. But maybe you can't speak up, or maybe you can't ensure that you pressure your colleagues for a community oversight board because you don't even know what you're fighting for. You don't even know how we were able to change government out of our pain. Stop and think about that. These women didn't have to do anything but be concerned about their father's case, but they decided to use that as a platform to invoke change in the city of Chattanooga forever. And Chattanooga is forever changed because of them. And so anytime, I believe this should be part of how we began to elect people, they need to know these names. If you want to run for mayor, you want to run for city council, if you don't know these names, no, ma'am, no, sir, you can't. If you don't know the history, if you don't know Brown versus the Board of Commissioners, nope, you can't run. Because you're not going to fight for the people. I don't care what you say. And I got to bring up Coonrod again, because at the police meeting that I happened to be able to attend that they had at 1:30 a couple of weeks ago on a Tuesday, when they could have had it at 6 o'clock, she asked the police chief if he was interested in having a community oversight board. Now, folks, I want y'all to stop and think about that. I'm going to ask the criminal if he's interested in having somebody watch over him to ensure that he doesn't do criminal activity. Folks, I'm sorry, but that didn't even make sense to me. How can you ask the community? The whole purpose of a community oversight board is to look into the police, not to work with the police. That's not the purpose. If you look at, and I hope, like I said, I hope y'all share this with Coonrod, because, and with Byrd, and with Oglesby, and with Burrs, and with Kenny Smith, and with Ledford, with all of them. If you look at, I'll take the city of Houston, Texas. The oversight board was actually started by their mayor, because they actually have a mayor who has a backbone. He wrote an executive order to start the community oversight board, and then took it a step further. They only report to him. They don't report to anybody in the police department. Nobody in the police department can be involved in the board, whether you're retired or current. It can only be community members, and it has to be a diverse, it has to be a diverse board of community members spanning all ages, religions, sexes, backgrounds, socioeconomic statuses, That's progressive right there. Let's look at our cousins up in Nashville who've had to fight so long and so hard when they had the murder of Jacquees Clemens in December. And then just a couple of weeks ago had the murder of Dan, who was shot in the back, y'all, by police. They got over 8,000 signatures. And even when they showed up to get it stamped, to get it notarized by the county clerk's office, the county clerk wouldn't even come outside and help them. Wouldn't even come outside and sign the documents after they worked so hard to get the signatures. Folks, when we talk about injustice, I want y'all to understand it's systemic. It's culture. Nobody wants, the system is not interested in change. It's not. But don't believe that people aren't willing to fight for it. And don't believe that it won't happen to you. That today is Unjolee Moore, but tomorrow it's not your son, your nephew, your grandson. Don't think that it's just black people. It's not. There are white people who die at the hands of crooked police, who go to prison for crimes that they did not commit. They're Hispanic people. It happens to all kinds of people. All kinds of races, all kinds of socioeconomic backgrounds, all kinds of educational backgrounds, all kinds of community backgrounds. It's not just, when I talk about injustice, it's not just against black people. There are plenty of people who experience the injustice at the hands of our government and the police department. And the incentive to get involved should be very, very clear. It could be you. Why should you care? Because it could be you. If it's not you today, best believe it could be you tomorrow. And if we continue to allow people, I want y'all to stop and think, especially for the listener who is a parent. Your child keeps messing up. Are you going to just sit back and allow them to keep doing it? Are you going to have to put forth some sort of punishment? For some, it may be a whooping. For some, it may be a timeout, right? It may be you have to write words from the dictionary 1,000 times, being on dishwashing duty for 3 weeks, getting the keys taken away from you, no PlayStation, no television, no cell phone. But I don't, hopefully, if you're a good parent, you're not going to allow your child, the folks that you take care of, the person you work hard for, to do whatever they want. That's not a good parent. Well, you know what? We take care of our government. There is no police force or city council or mayor without taxes. Without there is no salary. There is no police. There is no budget without people who pay taxes. We take care of them, whether we want to or not. And so it's time for us to put pressure on them because their behavior is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Annie Thomas and Maxine Cousin still don't know who murdered their father in police custody after it being in the hands of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, after writing letters to the United Nations, our Justice Department, civil suit. They still have no answers. It is not a stretch, especially when the Officer Wanger, was involved in the police brutality incident against Chattanooga citizen Adam Tatum. This is a pattern and a history, folks, that is not that far away. It's not that distant of a memory. This kind of stuff happens all the time. We've had people in my lifetime, even young people, who mysteriously die in police custody. No answers. No answers. The family gets no justice. Nobody gets brought forth. Nobody gets arrested. Nobody gets tried, convicted. All of it continues to get swept up under the rug, and enough is enough. This should be the case, the instance, the time right now. If you didn't do it before, stand up now. If you didn't care before, care now. If you didn't get involved now. If you didn't do anything before, do it now. If you didn't speak up before, speak up now. Show up now. We're going to be at Barking Legs Theater from 1 to 4 on Saturday. And it's called Resist and Chill. Okay? Resist and Chill. And there we're going to be talking about the case to free Unjolee Moore. Barking Legs is at 1307 Dodds Avenue. That is this Saturday, the 11th, at 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. It is funded and being based on a volunteer basis and by donations. If you want to make contributions, hit me up, Marie Armont, and I can put you in contact with Concerned Citizens for Justice. Look them up on Facebook, Concerned Citizens for Justice. I'll throw out some names. Jared Story, Ayana Clemens, Nathan King. If you want to make a donation, reach out to me. Click the messenger button on Concerned Citizens for Justice Facebook page. Send them some money. If you can't show up, send them some money, folks, because standing up is not free. Gas is not free. Time is money, so that ain't free. Okay? There are a lot of people who volunteer, who do all of these things, and they don't get any kind of compensation. This is not free work. They deserve, we put money everywhere else on things that don't matter. This is the time where money matters, making an investment into cleaning up the community in the right way, putting power back into people's hands. Let's do that. So if you want to make a donation, reach out to Concerned Citizens for Justice. Find them on Facebook, YouTube, various different social media outlets. You can reach out to them via their website, which is Concerned Citizens for Justice, .org. And it comes up just like that. It is typed out. So Resist and Chill is going to be this Saturday. And then Monday is when Mr. Moore finally gets to have a hearing. And that's going to be this Monday, August the 13th, 8 a.m. at 600 Market Street, room 301. Again, that's this coming up Monday, 8 a.m., 600 Market Street, room 301. I need y'all to pack it out. If you don't come Saturday, that's cool. Still make a donation. But I need to see you guys Monday. I'll be there as a member of the press, recording and standing up in solidarity with Concerned Citizens for Justice. Not there just for the story, but standing in solidarity with Concerned Citizens for Justice and other community members who I expect to be there. Be there. If you have nothing to do at 8 a.m., get up a little early, 7, get you a cup of coffee, put on some clothes, and get there. We would do it for you. We will do it for you. Stand in solidarity with us. It's time for us to stop fighting each other because we are neighbors, we are friends, we are countrymen and women. Stop fighting each other and fight the system. Okay? Let's do this together. That's what I'm here for. Nothing changes without power and demands. All right? And the demand is that we put the power back into people's hands. Wadey Suttles started it all with his death. His beautiful daughters, Maxine Cousin, Annie Thomas, and Lorenzo Irvin started the Brown versus the Board of Commissioners and Concerned Citizens for Justice, who are still here today fighting against the powers that be that try to oppress the people. Step up, step in, and help us fight. I love you guys, and there ain't nothing you can do about it.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Authorities are still looking for 71-year-old Tommy Shannon, who went missing from Ray County on Tuesday. His family says he's diabetic and may have Alzheimer's. He was last seen driving a maroon Ford Taurus with the tag number 260VQR. If you know where he is, call police. Georgia